This is British Medical Research Council body armour for British soldiers. The possibility of the British Army adopting some form of body armour for the personal protection of certain categories of troops, namely those exposed to high risk, had been under consideration by the Medical Research Council as early as 1940. It was felt that a lightweight suit of armour, not more than £4, was required for general use by infantry, air crews, and a heavier suit of up to £10 for use by static troops as like anti-aircraft artillery and naval gun crews. In February 1941, on the recommendation of the Body Protection Committee of the Medical Research Council, and in preparation for its general use, trials were begun on a set of body armour. This set or suit of armour consisted of three, two at the front, one at the back. It consisted of three specially shaped 1mm manganese steel plates, the same material as that used for the British Mark I steel helmet, which together weighed 2 3/4 pounds. The first plate, worn over the front of the chest to protect the heart, the great blood vessel and lung roots, measured 9 inches wide by 8 inches deep. The second plate was 14 inches wide by 4 inches deep, was worn horizontally over the lower part of the back of the chest below the shoulder blades in order to protect the base of the lungs and liver, and by way of the stem-like portion projecting upwards for 5 inches, part of the spinal column. So that's the first plate. That's the second plate, the back plate. The third plate at the front, it's lying flat because my dummy's not tall enough. So the third plate was 8 inches wide, 6 inches deep. It hung from the lower edge of the first and covered the central and upper parts of the wearer's belly. All the plates were slightly rounded to fit the curve of the body, and they were attached to each other by a system of interconnecting webbing straps and metal buckles. Now, the idea of wear for this was under the battle dress blouse, but over the shirt, with that bottom plate going down the front of the wearer's battle dress trousers. Now, if you have to get rid of it in a hurry, because it is quite weight, you can't get to it without taking your battle dress off. So it was worn by a lot of troops over the battle dress in the form that you see here. It was quick to get off. I mean, these are adjuster straps here and here, and down here, this is the clip that holds it on, that side and that side. So that basically holds it together. In order to overcome the problem of sweat building up between the inner surface of the steel plates and the wearer's body, the original production model had a spongy rubber beading affixed around the edge of each plate, the idea being that this beading held the plates away from direct contact with the wearer's body. However, a shortage of rubber forced subsequent plates to be produced with felt pads, the plates and pads being completely encased in canvas. The total weight of the armour suit, which also included the canvas covering the straps and the buckles, was 3.5 pounds. The size of the body armour was governed by the limitations placed on its design by its required weight. These factors combined with the findings that the armour was likely to create worse wounds when high penetration missiles such as rifle and machine gun bullets, low penetration missiles were fine, but metal fragments from exploding bombs, shells and grenades. On passing through the armour, these high penetration missiles were caused to be retained inside the wearer's body instead of passing clean through an unprotected body. This led to the suit being designed in the way it was. It only covers those regions of the body where practically all wounds would prove fatal, and it was therefore considered worthwhile to stop at least low penetration missiles. 5,000 sets of this armour were manufactured and put out for evaluation trials with units of the Home Forces and troops in the Middle East. Almost unanimously, it was recommended that it should be adopted. It was considered to be reasonably comfortable to wear, with no appreciable effect on the wearer's energy nor restrictions on his mobility, and the weight of the armour did not impair efficiency except on very long route marches. The chief objection was, however, that the clothing worn under the armour became very wet and sweaty, thus causing discomfort. In April 1942, approval was given for the introduction of the body armour into the British Army. 2 months later, production of the canvas cover pattern with felt pads, a substitute for an improvement on the original rubber edge pattern, was put in hand. Once final confirmation trials, which were then being staged at various infantry schools, had been concluded, it was found that, in the case of leading troops in close contact, complete freedom of movement when crawling or surmounting obstacles and rapid movement made in gaining cover were to some extent impaired, although these disadvantages were considered to be outweighed by the advantages gained in personal protection. Towards the end of 1942, it was realised that the production of body armour would have been competing with the metal required for the manufacture of steel helmets, and this resulted in priority being given to the steel helmets. The estimate for the number of sets of body armour required by forward troops of the British Army was given as 2.5 million. The Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force in combined operations also had their requirements, and pending finalisation of demands by all services, an order for 500,000 sets was placed in hand by the War Office in September 1943 with the Ministry of Supply. Early in 1944, as a result of growing indifference on the part of military theatres and army commanders, together with the very small demands placed by them for these suits of armour, the initial order for 500,000 sets was reduced to 300,000. Eventually, production was stopped at 200,000 sets, of which some 79,000 only were issued. 65,000 to the RAF and 15,000 to the Army in all theatres, the majority going to the 21st Army Group, where the major portion was allocated to the Airborne Division. The Army in Italy had no requirements except for some 300 sets for Royal Engineers on special duties. The remaining stocks were held in War Office depots and were never ever issued. So that is the Medical Research Council British body armour. Again, it's part of this D-Day videos that I'm doing over this weekend. It's going to drop on the floor as it has done there. And this is displayed on a staff sergeant of the Glider Pilot Regiment. Glider Pilot Regiment played a very important part in D-Day and the subsequent armed landings and the crossing of the Rhine. Glider Pilot Regiment came under command of the Army Air Corps during World War II, and it wore the Army Air Corps badge with the maroon airborne beret. And in 1950, it was given its own cap badge, and it's one of the very few British Army regiments that received a proper cap badge after it was disbanded, because obviously gliders were obsolete by the end of World War II and the helicopter took its role. So that is the Glider Pilot Regiment of the British Airborne Division, Staff Sergeant. And the webbing used is very similar with all its fixtures and fittings to the 37 pattern webbing. And as you can see on the back, it's kind of, its metal plates are riveted to the steel plate. Comes up in a kind of Y-strap effect. And like I say, there on the side is an adjuster and the clip that clips through there. And the same on that side there, clips through, and that's what holds it to the wearer's body. And again, these are just adjuster buckles. So yeah, quite a nice item. And I think, yeah, that's got some padding underneath it. So yeah, that's permanently fitted to my Glider Pilot tunic. So that is the British Medical Research Council body armour. Some were used on D-Day, but the majority were worn over the battle dress, not under it, as was prescribed at the time, because it was quick to get shot of. Same manganese steel plates, or same manganese steel used in the plates as in the British steel helmet, and then production was lowered and lowered and lowered because they needed more steel helmets more than they needed these body armour, as it was called. So that is, in inverted commas, D-Day body armour, Medical Research Council, on a Glider Pilot Regiment tunic. Bye for now.